Okay, so on today's notes, we are going to talk about compound inequalities. So let's just talk about what is a compound inequality. And it's simply just two or more inequalities graphed together on the same number line. So let's go ahead and write that down. So we have two or more inequalities I think I spelled that wrong, sorry. Graphed together on the same number line. Okay, so you're going to, on all of these, you're going to see two different graphs on the same number line. So here's an example of the graph. Now we have two types that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about ors or ands. And those two words, if you even think about it in English, mean something totally different. If I say, I'm going to buy me a pop or a candy bar, okay, or pop or a candy bar, pop and a candy bar. And you see how those two words mean something totally different in the sentence on there. So it's the same way with math. The word and or mean two totally different things. So if you look at this graph, we have two of them. So on the left, we would have x is less than or equal to a -4. And on the right, we would have x is greater than 1. Now, the word or goes in there. So or means it's in either, okay? In either. Okay? So we could say it's less than -4 or it's greater. It does not have to be both, okay? So or does not have to be in both. Okay, just one or the other. Okay, interval notation on this one would be, so everything less than 4, that would be from a -infinity to 4 bracket. And then we use the letter or symbol as a U, it means union. Okay, so the U means union. I'll write that here in just a second. And then on the other side, we're going to have a parenthesis at 1 going to a positive infinity. Okay, so let's write there. So U means union. So think of it like a marriage. I'm taking the answers that are on the left and I'm taking the answers that are on the right and I'm putting them together. Just like if you had a marriage, you would take all of his stuff and all of her stuff and put them together. Set notation would just be just like your inequality notation again, except for you do the x such that x is less than or equal to a -4 or x is greater than 1. Okay? So or means union. I cannot stress that enough. Or means you're union the two answers together. I'm joining the two answers. And sometimes I put that word there too, join the two answers. So several words there that mean it. So let's look at what we're going to have. So first off, you're just going to have two equations you're going to have to solve. So those are going to be your normal equations that we're solving. So first one, we're going to -4. 3x is less than or equal to 6. Divide by 6. X is less than or equal to 2. Next one over, we're going to divide by 5. So this is all our normal, nothing different, 9. So when I go to my graph, I'm going to have a closed circle on 2. And that, and that arrow is going to go to the left, okay? So everything less than or equal to 2, okay? And on the right, we're going to have 9, open, how about that? And to the right, okay? So if I write this in interval notation, it would go from a -infinity to 2, bracket because it's included, union with parenthesis 9 to positive infinity. okay? So I'll run through another one. We'll do number 3. So minus 8, negative 3y less than or equal to a negative 15. Now I'm dividing by a negative, so remember what the rule is there. I have to flip the sign, okay? Or, and I didn't put that word, but we should always put the word or in there. Plus 3, 10y less than or equal to a negative 33. Now I'm dividing by a positive. I don't flip the sign. Oh, sorry, I can't add. There we go, 30. Okay, so y is less than or equal to a negative 3. Okay, let's go graph it. So I have y is greater than or equal to 5. Y is less than or equal to a negative 3. Okay, and if you notice, the majority of the time, now, every now and then they'll give you something a little bit weird. They'll give you a special case, and we'll talk about that. But most of the time when we're actually doing these problems, we're going to do them with absolute values. Your graphs will look like this. So let's go ahead and do interval notation. So on the left, I have from a negative infinity to negative 3. And that should be a bracket. Union, bracket, 5 to positive infinity. See if I can clean that up just a hair here. Okay. So most of these, again, that you're going to be seeing is going to look this way, okay? So you'll just continue on and finish those up. Now let me show you the difference now between the or and the and. So when we go to do the and, it means intersection, okay? So it means intersection, or what we're looking at is what do the graphs have in common? Okay, what do the graphs have in common? And the symbol we're going to use for it is a intersection symbol. It looks like that, okay? So you're going to see a graph that is going to look like the one up above because I'm looking at the intersection of two graphs. So what I originally had here would have been a graph going this way and a graph going this way. And if you look at it, this is all they have in common. That would be your final answer. Okay? So how would I write this as an inequality? Well, we usually write it as one thing. So we would say x is less than 5 and x is greater than or equal to a negative 2. Okay, that's one way. Or you could put it separate. X is greater than or equal to a negative 2 and x is less than 5. But most people, again, prefer to write it this way. Now, interval notation. Again, on your left, we're going to have a bracket at a negative 2, a parenthesis at 5 because it's open. And again, our set notation is basically just going to be a repeat of our inequality, except we put the x such that, and you could use either one of those. It does not matter. I'll go ahead and do the top one up there. Okay, so it could be, I'll go ahead and write them both. It could be either one. Okay, so either one of those answers would be acceptable. Okay, and so that is what they're talking about here on the next line. So again, my answer could be written as or we can condense it, okay, condensed form, which looks like this. And again, a lot of times we'll refer to this as the interval between, okay? So we could say the interval between negative 2 and 5, okay? And let's see, I put an equal sign there that I didn't need, so let me erase that. Okay? Okay, so let's look at some examples real quick. So I'm going to solve it. And I don't think you guys have any problems with the solving, so I'm going to run through that fairly quickly. It's more the graphing that is the issue here. And then I put the word and in there, or you again could use the word intersection. Okay, so now here's where this one becomes just a little bit more complicated unless you remember the shortcut. But if I graph it again, so I'm going to run a graph of it. X is greater than a -6. Okay, X is less than 4. Okay, and then the question is, where do you see both graphs? And so when you look at this, you only see both of them right here. There's my interval. Now, I have kids who just do that and they stop. That is not the answer, okay? You have to take off, okay? You need to take off the other parts of it here, okay? Now that just erased all the thing. So what I mean by that is you're gonna take off those ends and just write just the interval. So it is the interval from here to there, okay? So when I graph the two, if you graph that whole thing and you leave it, that is not the answer. So what this means is to satisfy both of these equations, both of them at the same time, I would only be able to choose answers from a -6 to 4. Now, when you look at this one up here, okay, I could choose a number greater than a -6, so I could actually choose like 8, and that would make that true, but it won't make the other statement true, okay? So again, this makes both equations true. Okay, both equations true. Interval notation, since they're both open, it's going to be a parenthesis at a -6, 4 parenthesis at 4. Okay, so that is your ands. They're all going to look that way. I'll run through one more real quick, and then I'll be done. So I'm just going to -1, run through this really quick. Okay, so W is greater than or equal to 5. Sorry, less than or equal to. I'm not sure what I'm doing. Okay, there we go. And then I'm going to do my next one. Divided by a negative, so I got to flip my sign. Okay, so W, and again, we're going to put our word and in there. We're going to put, and that's just helping you to remember what graph you have. So we're going to put greater than the -8. And again, if you look, there's where they cross. Okay, so this in here would be my final answer. Don't extend it anywhere else. Okay, so I would suggest once you see that you be sure you make a final answer. Okay. Interval notation, we're going to have an open circle at, whoops, my bad. Man, how many times have I screwed up here? We are at a -8 as being my left. So -8 and 5 is my other endpoint. Okay. So again, just a real quick, when we have ands, okay, they will typically, not 100% of the time, and we'll talk about some special cases, they will typically look like this. They're an interval. They're going together. We have two endpoints. If you have an or, it will typically look like this. Now again, there are special cases, and that'll be the next thing that we talk about.